The single most common question I get is how? How can these possibly be photos taken at night when the lights are that bright? How did you get the colors that intense? Is this photoshopped? You know, there's really no trick to it. It's not some kind of special camera or lens. It's not because of Photoshop or any kind of digital enhancement. You know, it's really quite simple. It's all used with the camera, and in this video, I'll show you exactly how it's done. I'm going to show you 10 different photos of the same scene, each taken with a different shutter speed. All the other settings, such as ISO, aperture, and white balance, will remain unchanged. That way you can see just how one setting alters the look of a photo. This is a photo of a regular four-way intersection by my house in January. It's late afternoon, about an hour before sundown, so the light level is actually much lower than midday. This photo is our starting point, taken at 1/200th of a second. Now pay attention to the red signal lights in front of you there. That will be your best reference point as we progress. So this next shot was taken at 1/80th of a second, so that's more than double the amount of light coming in compared to 1/200th. You can see that the blue in the sky is getting really washed out here, and the contrast in the shadows is virtually gone. Now drop down to 1/30th of a second, and it's a little more than a big white blur. Any slower and it's going to go blank white, full overexposure. Now this is a pretty boring scene with nothing of interest in the foreground or background, but I chose a street intersection for a very specific reason. Again, pay attention to the red traffic lights. Day or night, they never change brightness, so it's a very good point of reference. So here's the exact same shot at that night, taken at 1/30th of a second. It's about 3 in the morning, and what was a big white blur now becomes a big dark blur, except for those 3 little dots. Those 3 red little dots are our traffic lights. So you can understand the need for a point of reference, because there is nothing else visible. It is totally black. So we drop down to about 1/5 of a second here, and you still really can't make much anything out. This is at the point where you have to have a tripod or else everything's going to be blurry. So now we're here at 1 full second of exposure. Now I want you to think back to the very first night photo. That was 1/30th of a second. This photo is actually 30 times the light that's being exposed. So now we can begin to picking out some details here. There's some snow in the foreground, the street light on the far right corner, but it's still far too dark as a photo, and it's actually much darker than I could see with my naked eyes at the scene. So now you jump up to 5 full seconds, and now we're getting somewhere. This light level is very similar to what I saw with my naked eye just walking around. So you look how bright the red light on the left has gotten, bright enough to reflect off the wet pavement. Now I want you to look at the sky in the back right above the horizon. Watch how that changes over the next couple photos. You can just make out the lights of the Twin Cities to the east. So here's 10 seconds, and look how dramatically the sky changes. And the reflection of the traffic light on the left has started to overexpose and lose detail already. Look how intense the red is also. Again, nothing has changed other than the shutter speed. I haven't added any sort of enhancement to the colors. That's just the way it is. At 20 seconds, it starts to get pretty wild. The sky is completely lit up. And look at not only how bright the traffic lights and the reflections have become, and how intense that red light is. It's super red. People think all the time that my images are Photoshopped because the colors are so vivid and bright. Well, if you think about it this way, at 20 seconds, this photo has 4,000 times more red light in it than the properly exposed photo at 1/200th of a second. At 30 seconds, it no longer even looks like anything on planet Earth. The sky looks like a nuclear winter on Mars. The traffic lights looks like some kind of weird floating amoeba aliens from Star Trek. It's important to remember that these are raw files with absolutely no digital enhancements. The only difference in all these photos is one setting, shutter speed. The other exposure settings, such as ISO, aperture, even white balance, are all fixed and unchanged. The power of simple shutter speed is all it takes to transform a dim light source into a wondrous array of color and light. You know, photography doesn't have to be about just documenting what we see in front of us. In fact, I rarely, if ever, think like that anymore. Instead, much of what I do is about using my camera more as a creative tool, looking beyond what is, and instead looking at what could be. Thanks for watching.